Cyber Threat Brief for February 26, 2026. Cisco issued emergency patches for 2 SDWAN 0 days exploited since 2023 by sophisticated threat actors. CISA deadline February 27. Scattered lapsus $hunters now recruiting women for vishing attacks, offering $500-1,000 per call. Claude Code vulnerabilities allow remote code execution and API key theft through malicious project files. Here's the full breakdown of today's top security stories. Daily Cyber Threat Brief. February 26, 2026. Next section, Critical Alerts. Cisco SDWAN 0 days exploited since 2023, CVE. 2026-20127, CVE. 2022-20775. Cisco disclosed 2 vulnerabilities in Catalyst SDWAN that have been actively exploited since at least 2023. CVE. 2026-20127, CVSS. The Common Vulnerability Scoring System, 10.0, allows unauthenticated remote attackers to bypass authentication and obtain administrative privileges. Attackers exploited this to create rogue peers in SDWAN networks, then downgraded software to exploit CVE. 2022-20775, CVSS 7.8, for root privilege escalation before restoring the original version. The campaign, tracked by Cisco Talos as UAT 8616, targeted federal networks and critical infrastructure globally. Both CVEs are now on CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, known exploited vulnerabilities catalog with a February 27, 2026 remediation deadline. Action: patch immediately to Cisco Catalyst SDWAN 20. 9. 8. 2 or later versions. Check /var/log/auth. Log for accepted public key for vManage admin from unauthorized IPs. CISA Emergency Directive 26-03 requires federal agencies to inventory systems, collect logs, apply patches, and hunt for compromise by Friday. Never expose SDWAN management interfaces to the Internet. This is a maximum severity actively exploited vulnerability with a hard deadline, and 3 additional IP addresses in the show notes. Sources: The Hacker News Cyberscoop, Bleeping Computer CISA Cisco Talos. Next section, Ransomware and Extortion. Scattered lapsus $hunters recruiting women for vishing attacks. Scattered lapsus $hunters, SLH. The cybercrime supergroup combining lapsus $, scattered spider, and shiny hunters is now recruiting women specifically for voice phishing campaigns targeting IT help desks. The group offers $500-1,000 upfront per call, plus pre-written scripts. The recruitment aims to increase success rates by using female voices that may bypass traditional attacker profiles that its staff are trained to identify. SLH continues to use advanced social engineering to sidestep M.F.A. multi-factor authentication through prompt bombing, SIM swapping, and help desk impersonation, followed by lateral movement to virtualized environments and data exfiltration leading to ransomware deployment. Action: train IT help desk personnel to recognize polished scripts and voice impersonation regardless of caller gender. Enforce strict identity verification before password or MFA resets. Shift away from SMS-based MFA. Audit logs for new user creation or administrative privilege escalation following help desk interactions. Monitor for RMM, remote monitoring and management, tool installations, and residential proxy usage. Luminati Oxy Labs. Block tunneling tools like ngrok, Teleport, Pingy at the perimeter. This group has a proven track record of breaching major organizations. Source: The Hacker News. Ramp Forum seizure disrupts ransomware ecosystem. Law enforcement seizure of the Ramp Underground Forum has fractured the ransomware ecosystem. The forum served as a marketplace and coordination point for ransomware affiliates and initial access brokers. Defenders should monitor how these groups reform and consolidate threat intelligence to guide detection and response strategies during the reshuffling period. Action: watch for changes in ransomware gang communication channels and affiliate recruitment patterns. Update threat intelligence feeds to track new forums or marketplaces that emerge. This disruption creates temporary operational confusion for threat actors, but is unlikely to stop activity long-term. Source: Dark Reading. Next section: Business and Infrastructure Threats. Marquee sues SonicWall over backup breach, leading to ransomware attack. Marquee Software Solutions filed a lawsuit against SonicWall, accusing the cybersecurity vendor of gross negligence that led to a ransomware attack disrupting 74 U.S. banks in August 2025. The attack was not caused by an unpatched firewall vulnerability as initially believed, but by attackers using configuration data extracted from SonicWall's My SonicWall Cloud Backup Service, a SonicWall API. Code change in February 2025 created a security gap allowing unauthorized access to firewall configuration backups containing AES 256 encrypted credentials, configuration data, and MFA scratch codes. Mandiant attributed the attack to state-sponsored hackers. Marquee stated its firewall was fully patched with MFA enabled, but the threat actor compromised it using information from the SonicWall cloud breach. SonicWall disclosed the incident 3 weeks after the vulnerability was introduced and initially claimed it affected 5% of customers before confirming all clients were impacted. Marquee now faces 36 consumer class action lawsuits. Action: if using SonicWall firewalls, verify configuration backups are stored securely and rotate credentials if backups were exposed. Review MFA scratch codes and regenerate them. Check firewall access logs for unauthorized logins between February 2025 and disclosure. This case demonstrates supply chain trust failures can bypass endpoint security controls. Consider this when evaluating vendor security practices. Source: Bleeping Computer. Google disrupts grid-tied global espionage campaign. Google Threat Intelligence Group, GTIG, and Mandiant disrupted a global cyber espionage campaign by UNC 2814, a suspected China Nexus threat actor tracked since 2017. The campaign targeted telecommunications and government organizations in 42 countries across 4 continents. UNC 2814 deployed the grid-tied backdoor, which used Google Sheets API calls for command and control to disguise malicious traffic as legitimate cloud activity. Google terminated all attacker-controlled Google Cloud projects, disabled attacker accounts, revoked access to Google Sheets API, and released IOCs dating to 2023. The campaign affected 53 confirmed victims with suspected infections in 20 additional countries. This activity is distinct from Salt Typhoon and targets different victims using different TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. Initial access vector is unconfirmed, but UNC 2814 historically exploits web servers and edge systems. Action: review cloud API usage for anomalous patterns, especially Google Sheets API calls from server environments. Hunt for grid-tied IOCs released by GTIG. Monitor edge devices and web servers for exploitation attempts. Threat actors increasingly abuse legitimate cloud services for command and control to evade detection. This campaign demonstrates the difficulty of distinguishing malicious from legitimate cloud traffic. Source: Google Threat Intelligence. Fake Next. JS job interview tests deploy backdoors on developer machines. Microsoft Defender identified a coordinated campaign targeting software developers using malicious Next. JS repositories disguised as legitimate coding projects and technical assessment materials. Attackers created fake web app projects on Bitbucket and other platforms that execute malicious Java script automatically when developers clone and open the repository. Multiple execution triggers exist: VS Code, vscode/tasks, JSON with run on, folder open, Trojanized assets during npm run dev, and backend modules that decode C2 endpoints from N files. The JavaScript payload profiles the host, registers with a C2 server, and upgrades to a tasking controller that supports remote code execution, file enumeration, and staged data exfiltration. Multiple repositories, shared naming conventions, and infrastructure, indicating a coordinated campaign rather than one-off attacks. Action: enforce VS Code workspace trust and restricted mode before opening untrusted repositories. Use attack surface reduction (ASR) rules to block risky execution patterns. Minimize secrets stored on developer endpoints. Use short-lived tokens with least privilege. Inspect package, JSON scripts, and VS Code configuration files before running build commands. Developer workflows are high-value attack surfaces. Treat cloning untrusted repositories as a security event. Source: bleeping computer. Next section, vulnerability disclosures. Claude code flaws allow remote code execution and API key exfiltration. CVE 2026-21852, CVE 2025-59536. Checkpoint disclosed 3 vulnerabilities in Anthropic's Claude Code AI coding assistant that allow remote code execution and API key theft when developers open untrusted repositories. One flaw, CVSS 8.7, no CVE or common vulnerabilities and exposures, fixed September 2025, bypassed user consent via malicious hooks in Claude/settings. JSON, CVE 2025-59536, CVSS 8.7, fixed October 2025, allowed automatic execution of arbitrary shell commands through Model Context Protocol, MCP, servers defined in repository configuration files. CVE 2026-21852, CVSS 5.3, fixed January 2026, enabled API key exfiltration by setting Anthropic base URL to an attacker-controlled endpoint before the trust prompt appeared. Simply opening a crafted repository triggered credential theft and enabled redirection of authenticated API traffic. Action: update Claude Code to version 2.0.65 or later. Do not open repositories from untrusted sources without reviewing Claude/settings. JSON and MCP. JSON configuration files first. Rotate Anthropic API keys if you opened untrusted projects before January 2026. This demonstrates how AI development tools expand the attack surface. Configuration files now function as execution layers. Repository-level config trust boundaries are critical. Sources: The Hacker News, The Register Checkpoint Research. Malicious NuGet packages stole ASB. Netdata. NPM package dropped malware socket discovered 4 malicious NuGet packages targeting ASB. NET developers: Encrypt.io, Domo Auth2, Irao Auth2, Zero, and Simple Writer. The packages accumulated 4,500 downloads between August 12-21, 2024, before removal. Encrypt.io acted as a first-stage dropper, establishing a localhost proxy on port 7152, relaying traffic to attacker C2. Domo Auth2 and Irao Auth2. Zero exfiltrated ASB. NET identity data, user accounts, role assignments, permissions, and backdoored applications by modifying authorization rules to grant admin access. Simple Writer enabled file writing and hidden process execution. The attack targeted deployed production applications, not developer machines directly. Separately, Tenable disclosed the NPM package Ambar SRC with 50,000 downloads that used pre-install hooks to deliver platform-specific malware. MSynit. EXE on Windows, encrypted shellcode, ELF reverse shell on Linux, and scripts on Mac OS. Action: audit NuGet dependencies in ASB. NET applications for the 4 malicious packages. Review ASB. NET identity data access logs for unauthorized exfiltration. Check authorization rules for unexpected admin role assignments. For NPM projects, scan for AMBAR SRC in package, JSON and package lock. JSON, remove immediately if found. Supply chain attacks increasingly target the build and deployment pipeline rather than developer endpoints. Source: The Hacker News. SolarWinds patches 4 critical ServView vulnerabilities. SolarWinds released patches for 4 critical vulnerabilities in ServView that could allow remote code execution. The flaws require administrative privileges to exploit, reducing the likelihood of external attack, but creating significant risk if an attacker already has admin access through phishing or credential theft. Action: Update SolarWinds ServView to the latest patched version immediately. Review admin account access logs for suspicious activity. These vulnerabilities require admin access, but are rated critical because exploitation leads to full system compromise. Post-exploitation tools often target admin-level software vulnerabilities. Source: Security Week. UFP Technologies discloses data theft in cyber-attack medical device manufacturer UFP Technologies, 4,300 employees, $600 million annual revenue. Disclosed a cyber attack detected February 14, 2026, that compromised IT systems and stole data. The company deployed isolation measures and engaged external advisors. Preliminary investigation indicates the threat actor has been removed, but data was stolen or destroyed, suggesting ransomware or wiper malware. Affected functions included billing and label making for customer deliveries. The company has not yet determined if personal information was exfiltrated. UFP Technologies stated the incident is unlikely to have material impact on operations or financials. No ransomware group has publicly claimed the attack. Action: Healthcare supply chain organizations should review security controls for billing and manufacturing systems. The data destruction element suggests ransomware with wiper components. Monitor for ransom demands or public data leaks from UFP Technologies. Supply chain attacks on medical device manufacturers can impact hospital operations downstream. Sources: Bleeping Computer Security Week. Next section: General Security News. U.S. sanctions Russian exploit broker Operation Zero. The U.S. Treasury Department sanctioned Operation Zero, a Russian exploit broker that acquired 8 zero-day exploits from a U.S. defense contractor, executive now in prison for selling the vulnerabilities. Exploit brokers facilitate the sale of zero-day vulnerabilities to nation-state threat actors and intelligence services, creating a market for offensive cyber capabilities. Action: Awareness only. This sanctions action disrupts one supply chain for zero-day exploits, but does not eliminate the underground market. Organizations should maintain robust patch management and assume zero-day threats exist in the wild regardless of sanctions. Source: Security Week. LLMs enable automated de-anonymization of pseudonymous users. Researchers demonstrated that large language models can automate the de-anonymization of pseudonymous users across platforms like Hacker News, Reddit, and LinkedIn with 67% accuracy at 90% precision. The technique cost approximately $2,000 for the entire experiment, $1-4 per profile. LLMs extract identity-relevant signals from unstructured text, search across millions of candidate profiles, and reason about account ownership. Previous de-anonymization techniques required manual effort and predefined feature schemas. LLMs make this process scalable and affordable. Governments could use this to target journalists or activists. Corporations could identify employees or customers posting anonymously. Threat actors could de-anonymize security researchers or whistleblowers. Action: Assume pseudonymous accounts can be linked to real identities if sufficient public data exists. Do not rely on username anonymity for operational security. Minimize cross-platform information sharing that could be used for correlation. This research demonstrates that LLMs fundamentally change the privacy calculus for online activity. Source: The Register. Next section: Trends and Context. Today's brief is dominated by supply chain and infrastructure attacks targeting the development and operational layers of IT environments. The Cisco SDWAN 0 days and the Sonic Wall Cloud backup breach demonstrate that network edge devices and vendor cloud services remain high-value targets for sophisticated threat actors. Developer-focused attacks through malicious repositories. Next, JS, Claude Code, NuGet, NPM show that attackers are shifting left to compromise software before it reaches production. Scattered Spider's recruitment of women for social engineering highlights the adversary's operational adaptation to bypass security awareness training. Organizations must defend at multiple layers, patch network edge devices immediately, scrutinize developer workflows as attack surfaces, and train staff to recognize evolving social engineering tactics. That concludes today's Cyber Threat Brief. From Carolina Clear Tech. Stay patched, stay vigilant.